KKLS News Corp 920 and 104.7. And here in studio with us, Rapid City Mayor Steve Allender. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Brad. I'm doing great.
All right. Well, I suppose we should get right down to the meat of it. I had some things. I wasn't able to go to your media event yesterday, but I want to start off talking about that a little bit and just some of the things you expressed after. It looks like petitions were turned in and they're in the process of being verified, and they may end up resulting in a referendum on the City Council's decision to go ahead with the big project, building a brand new arena and repurposing the Barnett at the Civic Center, as you explained as one of the options in the special council meeting a few weeks ago. What basically were you talking about yesterday at your media event?
Well, I think there's little doubt that that there will be enough signatures to get this to a public vote. So I spoke about the kind of the timeline and how we would handle campaigning or advocating for the ballot issue. When it officially becomes a ballot issue, which will be next Monday night at a special council meeting, then the city will be unable to expend resources to advocate for a position on the ballot issue. And they'll be able to answer questions and post factual things as far as how many seats or what the building may look like or that type of thing. But there'll be the city agency, the city government body will be staying out of the advocacy game for that. I, on the other hand, will not. I'll continue to advocate for this. I will help bring about understanding and gain support for this up until the night before the election. And then there will be a private campaign. There are business leaders and other citizens gathering, organizing. They will file paperwork with the Secretary of State before too long, and there'll be an official campaign committee, and they'll raise private funds and do advertising and try to get the word out here in favor of a new arena. Whether or not a no committee is formed or officially formed is a whole other thing, but there's folks out there who are still not in favor of a new arena, don't think it's necessary, and would like to just stay where we're at.
Revisiting, I guess, just very quickly, the recent referendum vote on the water rates, that was such a special circumstance as it came forward. The city stepped out on something that we have seen in the past that has gone through the ordinance process, and it's been adjusted over the two readings to fit local politics, pressure from the public to keep rates down and everything else, and it hasn't addressed some of the needs of the water department. And going forward with a resolution that would help the city's enterprise get turned back, of course, in that vote that happened during a snowstorm, strangely enough. What's your feeling on the outcome of that, and how that whole process went down?
Well, again, unfortunate. And I'm not pointing fingers at any specific individuals, but there have been past administrations that have not followed the recommended rate adjustments that have been recommended to them by professional engineering companies who've been hired to come in and study just that. Water ratepayers pay not only for the water out of their tap, but they pay for the production of the water, the transportation of the water, the filtering, the process, the chemistry, the quality, all of it. And that includes water plants and lines and all type of things. So, and then also, by the way, includes storage capacity in Pactola Reservoir. The City of Rapid City owns so many cubic feet of Pactola Reservoir to protect its future water supply. So the issue was that the city tried to put all of our rates into resolution. Most of our rates were in resolution. The utilities were in city ordinance.
Yes.
A number of years ago, under the previous administration, they developed the Compass Committee, which was a self-auditing committee to eliminate fraud and waste.
Yeah, I think Charity Doyle, ran that, right?
Charity Doyle brought that up. Some other folks assisted as well, but so that was a big deal, and it was funded by the city. There were city employees doing it, and one of the first recommendations they made was to get all of our rates in one place, so that there was no question about where they were and so on. So In the 2018 budget process, we put the utility rates into resolution. Resolution is like a city ordinance with the exception of an ordinance requires 2 public readings and a resolution requires 1. It still requires a majority vote. It still requires publication. It still requires official action by the council.
Yes.
So the Citizens for Liberty showed up at that meeting and said, we oppose putting it in a resolution. We want it to be in an ordinance because then it's more official. Putting it in a resolution seems sneaky. And so that was the issue. We don't want it in an ordinance, we want a resolution, and they vowed to put this to a public vote. So that's what they did. However, people signing the petitions and casting the vote no on that issue believed they were voting against water rates, against increased water rates, when in fact, as the language clearly stated on the ballot, they were voting against the water rates being in a resolution rather than an ordinance.
Right.
So that's just an example of how we get sidelined by something and how the whole referendum process can go sideways. I don't know if it's egos or natural human competitiveness or what, but we end up drawing a line and taking sides over an issue like this, when really the people that were elected by the citizens to make these kind of decisions were able to study the information, understand the pros and cons, the consequences, make that decision, and then the people have the right to reject that decision and put it on a public ballot.
I bring this up and I kind of loop around this first to play catch up with that a little bit because we hadn't had a chance to talk to that before now. But at that time, and again this time, you've called the opponents out on putting out distorted or outright false information in some cases in that issue, and then again in this issue. What's basically are you facing right now is the argument against what the council did comes forth?
Well, with the group passing petitions at the night of the city council meeting, February 26th, their point was very clear. We don't believe the council should decide on an expenditure this large. We believe it belongs in the hands of the people. So that was it. And they said that night, told me to my face that night, I don't believe anyone's against it. We just believe that it should be a decision by the voters. Okay, so fine. And as we go into the petition collecting process, then they have some volunteer anonymous person recalculate the financing to show that it's going to cost tens of millions of dollars more than it is, to show that the interest rate is 2 points higher than it really is, to show that all these charges will be added, which won't be. And so I went to their booth at a local show and said, who did your math here? How did these numbers come up? And they said, well, it's a matter of opinion. This is someone's opinion. And my point is, math is not an opinion. Math is so there's that. There's also the reports from the citizens calling and emailing, telling me what they were told during the petition signing process. Would you like to sign a petition to put the new arena on a vote? No, I'm in favor of a new arena. Well, then, in that case, you need to sign the petition because this is the next step in getting a new arena. And
that's a little deceptive.
It's bizarre. So I think during the process, this natural competitiveness starts, or the point making becomes the new priority, and so the end result is, a big deal. And I have a email in my box that came in yesterday from a citizen saying, can't these petitions be rejected because of the false information that was given out upon the time of the signing? And I would say, yeah, perhaps technically you could make a case that it was misleading and that people really weren't signing what they thought they were signing and so on. But then again, if this were to go to court...
I don't think I'd touch that lawsuit with a 10-foot pole.
No, and if you're a judge, I think you could imagine, well, look, it's going to a public vote. That's the best way to clear this thing up.
Yeah.
So, but that's where we're at today is we're just, I think honestly the group and the city have each other's feathers ruffled a little bit, and now we get to see how much attention we give to that.
All right. So let the truth prevail is kind of what you're saying, right?
Let the truth prevail, and there's no conspiracy here. If someone wants to see numbers, they want to see how we calculated something, they want to talk to task force members or anything like that. This is an open process, and I've done everything I can do to make it open and make people comfortable with the process. Because 3 years ago, the process was not the same. And there were some, what I call offenses committed against the public 3 years ago that created this sour feeling that they weren't being told everything, that the process was somehow skewed, and so on and so forth. Well, I've done all I can do to expose those issues, kind of neutralize those fears to the best of my ability, and let people make an honest, forthright decision on what needs to be done here.
The city learned, I think, a very hard lesson on the building of the ice arena about when stages of projects actually get delayed and don't kind of stay on schedule either. There were greatly increased material costs and some other things that really had to be accounted for later that got a little out of hand at times. And they had to do some downscaling, I think, and some other stuff to kind of make up for it. But this is a reason why you keep a huge project kind of on track once you commit to it, right?
Right, and the primary reason why we have hired an owner's representative, it's a group, and the company name is Tegra, Tegra. They represent the owner's interests, in this case the city of Rapid City. They deal with the contractors, the architects, the consultants. They help keep the meetings on track, the progress on track. They've been doing this for companies for 22 years and have yet to have a project go over budget or be past the time frame that was promised. And so that's a real insurance policy for the people here. The same company helped with the Black Hills Corp building process and with the Sioux Falls Arena and with a number of large government projects across the Midwest. It's what they do, and now they're doing it for us. So there's it's brought about a lot of stability to this process.
All right. I want to continue and really revisit, I guess, some of your presentation for the project and why it's important, why the vision is there right now. And take a quick little break and come back and talk about that, okay?
Yep.
All right. We're with Mayor Steve Allender this morning at KKLS News Corp 920 and 104.7. KKLS News Corp 920 and 104.7. It's about coming up on about 12 before 8 o'clock. We still have some more minutes to spend with Rapid City Mayor Steve Allender. Thanks for coming in this morning and talking about this. This is such a big thing, and the Civic Center, just recircles. It's probably about as equal with water itself as an issue that keeps coming up on the political horizon here in Rapid City. I think when I moved to town, they were yelling over impact fees, and that whole argument with Jerry Munson was going on.
We've been. We've managed to keep something in the political realm in this city forever, and it always has to do with vision and expansion and things of that nature. And so now it's the Civic Center and the arena dilemma that we face right now. It's really difficult. I understand where people come from when they're negative about spending $100+ million. That's a lot of money. And
but I think sometimes people make the mistake of feeling like it's coming all out of like their own pocket. It's something that the project itself, pays back over time just because of the cash and the activity that it generates by existing.
Right. And the Vision Fund has created a number of swimming pools, park amenities, the Journey Museum, all types of community assets. The ice arena, many of which cause the city to raise its operation costs, all for quality of life and to make our city more attractive and to give us more recreational opportunities, that sort of thing. Those things never really come to the top. I know there was quite a debate over the Journey Museum and that sort of thing, but we can build a swimming pool where the city will subsidize every kid swimming there throughout the summer, $5-6 every time they show up. But no controversy. So now we're proposing spending the Vision Fund, half of the Vision Fund collections each year on a new arena, which will cost us nothing in operating costs. All the operating costs for the current and the new arena are made up from two funding sources, and that is the sales within that facility. The catering, the concessions, the room rentals, the tickets, and so on. And the other, the minority portion of that operational funding comes from the gross municipal receipts tax. That's a tourism tax, the 1% on alcohol, restaurant, food, entertainment, and lodging. So this tax is paid in large part by our visitors. Mm-hmm. So those are the funding sources. So no money from the general fund comes, no money comes out of the general fund to fund the Civic Center events, and they operate as a business. So, right. So here we are, and we're trying to spend half of the Vision Fund to give Rapid City something that it needs to reinvest in what we invested in 41 years ago with the Civic Center complex, and that's where the dilemma is. There are folks who have expressed to me that we paid for it once 41 years ago. That's good enough. Let it die a natural death.
Dying a natural death. That's the part of it I don't get.
Yeah, don't try to keep it up because now that Sioux Falls is this way, or now that I can't afford a concert ticket, or now something, then we can't justify spending any of this money. And to the point that it's a lot of money, there's no doubt. $130 million for a project like this is a lot of money. We've not spent that much money in one project perhaps ever. However, people want to say, well, we need better roads. We should be spending that money on roads. We spend $130 million on roads and infrastructure in Rapid City every 5 years. Mm-hmm. Every 5 years, $25 to $30 million per year on roads and infrastructure.
Yeah.
So that's how quickly $130 million comes and goes. And we're fixing a road that may hopefully last 20, 25, 30 years for that season. And so here we're looking at something that will last for, 4 or 5 or more decades and still revitalize the Civic Center and what it brings.
And I would say point to the road that generates, millions of dollars of cash every year.
Right.
It goes through community cash flow.
Now, this is a touchy subject, and I don't want to be strung up down at the town square
certainly.
But it's a touchy subject. I got a little turned around in a neighborhood this winter, and I took a road that I've not taken before, and I nearly broke my neck on it. I mean, it was so bad. The holes in it, the disruption in the road, and just when I thought I was over, I hit something that felt like a huge railroad tie or something in the road. So obviously there are terrible roads. Some of the roads are terrible in Rapid City, but it's 10% of the roads or less. We have an analysis that's performed every 2 years, and we really get to understand which roads are deteriorating, which ones can be repaired, which ones need no maintenance, and so we have an eye on that. The whole thing is this: it's about balance. Like in my case, I could spend all of my available cash on hair transplants, and I could have a beautiful head of hair. And I could spend all of my time caring for that hair and having it trimmed and all, dyed and whatever else, and be too poor to spend my money anywhere else. Now, that's similar to the decision we're at today. We can put all of our available cash into roads, and then what? At what expense? Would it be at the expense of the parks or the library or police or fire or what other general fund categories would end up paying for that? So we're trying to balance the funds that are available, and that's a dilemma. I think that's something that people don't really care to understand. It's not hard to understand because they do the same thing in their homes with their budget. So our roads are not great, but neither are the roads in any northern community where it freezes and thaws every winter. And the farther north you go, the worse it is.
Yeah, well, it certainly is.
So if you want perfect roads, there are places in the deep south, I imagine, that don't face the disruption that we have here in South Dakota. So that's one of the issues. And the other issue is, no one will come here if we build something new. And the analysis there is that they wouldn't go there. Or their friends wouldn't go there, and this is truly an asset. This Civic Center and this potential new arena is an asset that you don't have to participate in to benefit from.
Well, no.
The amount of taxes, the amount of retail spending that occurs, the amount of travel, and the way that the visitor industry is energized by this type of thing really has carried Rapid City since 1890. We have been a visitor destination. We're dubbed Gateway to the Black Hills in 1890. And that's who we are. And it's appropriate for us to reinvest in that from time to time. So this arena has been as is for 41 years.
Well, and the whole tourist season versus not tourist season, of course, is always an issue that crops up around here too. They could say we do a lot during the tourist season, but during the rest of the year, the city needs to be a destination, and this is the huge component in that.
That's true, and historically, for many years, we have not gotten major traveling events or concerts or other type of entertainment in the summer months. And we do fine. Our visitor industry does fine in May, June, July, August, September, and you can see that on the retail tax collection statistics. So we have a big spike in the summer. We have another spike leading up to Christmas. But in all of the other times of the year is really where we have the ability to try to stabilize our revenue sources. Because if we all just close up shop in the winter, then that spike in summer and at Christmas time is not gonna keep the revenue coming in at a sufficient rate. So this is not about creating new spikes. The Civic Center in itself and the hotels and restaurants and the attractions, they don't have enough of the retail market share to have an event one day and see a spike going through the ceiling. This is about stability and ongoing sustainability.
To kind of sum up, is it fair to say that 4 decades ago, people then took this kind of leap at that scale and made the Civic Center that is here now, and it's time again to make that scale of leap for this time going off into this future?
That's absolutely true. There are two types of people who voted on the original Civic Center funding scheme in 1972. Two types of people. Those that saw a vision and those that saw the potential of investing in this type of a thing. And at that time, the main emphasis was to get the state basketball tournaments here and to be more of a convention center. So there are those that voted for that had that vision. Those that voted against believed that it was a mistake, it was too much money, it wouldn't attract anyone, it wasn't worth it, the money was better spent elsewhere. And then over those 40 years, I have talked to a number of people who voted no on this in 1972, who have said it's the best lesson, best mistake they've ever made. That they felt about it strongly one way, and a year later they felt about it differently. I've heard the same thing about other things that this city has voted on. Main Street Square, some people thought horrible idea, and now they go there every week during the summer. So this is about vision, and it's about our children and our grandchildren. That Barnett Arena, I'm in my, let's say, mid-50s. The Barnett Arena was built for people like me, for my generation and older. The new arena will be built for the next generations, for my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, perhaps. And so that's an investment in the future. The return is in economic impact. The return is quality of life, in reaffirming our status as a visitor destination.
Okay. And I just want, again, for you to just kind of sum up your thoughts of the role the Civic Center plays just in our local, just our local economy, and just the importance of really kind of latching onto the bigger vision right now.
Well, again, we're a visitor destination. We don't have 5,000 hotel rooms by accident, and that's a testimony that people do come here. We've got evidence that people also travel here for short-term events, even even a one-night event. And so that fills not only our city, but it fills our region with visitors, people looking for more fun things to do. All of the mayors in the surrounding communities of surrounding Rapid City report big upticks in visitors centering on the Civic Center arena events. So locally, we bring thousands of people into town. And for Civic Center events, half of our attendees come from out of town, more than 50 miles away.
Right.
21% of our attendees come from other states. And to someone a little more mature like myself, that doesn't make sense. If I lived in Idaho, I would not trek across the country to come to a 3-hour event in South Dakota. But people do it, and we have evidence. We have proof that they do it, and it's happening all over the country with all of the venues like ours. So I think it's important for us to keep Rapid City money in Rapid City. Also important for us to get Sioux Falls money in Rapid City, and to get Billings money in Rapid City, and Denver money in Rapid City. And we have evidence that this will occur. And that's, again, supporting who we are as a visitor destination. It's vitally important to the local community, just as visitors to Mount Rushmore are. They stay somewhere, they eat somewhere, they recreate somewhere, they come here to enjoy themselves, and that costs money.
All right. Well, we're, of course, we could go on for another hour, a couple hours about a lot of little details about this, but we got to kind of wrap it up this morning. Just kind of want to, kind of a final thought for you is people consider now the prospect of voting on June 5th. You know, you're saying it's likely it will go to a referendum.
Yeah.
What you want voters really to kind of keep in mind as they kind of look at the issue on the ballot?
Well, I want those who are undecided.
And the issue will be whether to stick with the city council's vote to go ahead with the big project or to say no to it.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
That issue will be on the June 5th ballot. What I am asking folks to do is, if you have not seen a presentation, if you've not heard from me, all of the pros and cons and what we're looking at here in the bigger picture, give yourself an opportunity to come to a public presentation. I'll be doing them from now up through the first few days in June. There will be no shortage of press or advertisements on how to get to one of these events. I'm putting on a presentation tomorrow morning at the Alex Johnson Ballroom. The presentation starts at 7:45 and goes till 9 o'clock. But there will be a number of opportunities. This is bigger than any of our individuals, bigger than any of us as in our coffee groups that think that this is a bad idea. Just come and listen to the facts. And I'd be glad to take all the questions that we can take on this issue. I'm not afraid of anything. If I don't have an answer that makes everyone happy, I'm going to give that answer anyway. Because, this is not a perfect world. Nothing is perfect. And this plan obviously is what it is, and I'm willing to share that.
All right. Well, Rapid City Mayor Steve Allender in with us this morning talking about the Civic Center, and if we get one more big snowstorm and they don't plow out my cul-de-sac, I'm going to be calling you.
I would expect you to.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. We'll talk later on this. We'll talk later on this.